with this podcast, we're not going to be making money quickly. It sounds like if we wanted to make money off of this podcast, we would be better off turning this into like a jackass type of podcast where we just do stupid shit, and that will make us likely go viral.
Welcome everyone to the Bewildered podcast. We are so happy that you have joined us today. Today's going to be a good one. We have a nice episode ready for you guys. And so without further ado, let's get it going. And so today I am joined by my two lovely friends, Edgar and Carlos. Gentlemen, how are we doing this morning?
Hey, what's up? Good.
Good. I'm many things, but lovely might not be one of them. But thank you for the compliment.
You're welcome, sir. And so today we should have a good episode. And so without further ado, Edgar, what are we going to talk about today?
Today we're going to talk about going viral and the dumbing of America. You guys have noticed that we're getting into the topic discussion faster and faster. And that is because we only have 5 seconds to grab the attention of the listener. Otherwise, they're going to swipe and go check out like a video of a guy in a monkey suit or something. So there's a reason for that, and we're going to talk about why that is and figure out if we are the antidote or are we part of the problem. So the reason why I even brought this topic up is because I was doing research on how we can make money off of this podcast and how to get more viewers and more stuff like that. And I came across this video by this 18-year-old named Jenny Hoyo, who claims that she can make anything go viral. And I was appalled by her two techniques. Nothing to do with her, but just a reflection of the society we're in. So without further ado, I'm just going to let you guys listen to the viral technique, and then we'll discuss it afterwards.
First thing is the visual. Easily. The first thing is the visual, and then I figure out how I'm going to accompany that visual. And what I'm saying, I try to make it as concise as possible, and I'll put it in a readability checker and then make sure that it's actually understandable to at least fifth grade or under.
What's the readability checker that you use?
I don't know. I don't pay for it. It's readabilityformulas.com is the one I use.
And you want to be fifth grade or under?
Fifth grade or under, yeah.
Have you played around with things that are older, quote unquote, than that, and seen that that's the level that it should be at, or how did you arrive at fifth grade?
So I have analyzed thousands of shorts, as you may know. So I've scraped, the scripts of a bunch of shorts, and I've put it in this readability checker. And I've noticed that the most popular shorts, especially Mr. Beast, Mr. Beast is one of the best shorts creators, and his is in first grade level. So I just basically after scraping everything, that's when I realized fifth grade and under is about the range you want to be at. Yeah, I think, that's just simply put, yeah.
How did you land on fifth grade? Was that the average of all of these? I'm
not going to lie, the readability can sometimes be off, but it was just at a range, because I believe Eric, for example, is slightly higher. I don't know the exact number on the top of my head, but I just noticed that a good in between is fifth grade. But I will say the problem with the readability is, especially with content like mine, you can change the readability from fifth grade to eighth grade by simply using the word business, which is why I try to avoid things like that. Or if you use the word finance, or if you use for example, profit, instead of saying profit, I just explain the definition of profit every time I talk about it.
Wow.
So you can see that we're pretty much cooked in this podcast because based on the information that she said, ours is definitely not at a fifth grade level. I think we're trying to promote critical thinkers, questioning what you hear and what you see and making you think. And so the prospects of making money kind of got me a little bit sad because it sounds like we're in it for the long run with this podcast. We're not going to be making money quickly. It sounds like if we wanted to make money off of this podcast, we would be better off turning this into a jackass type of podcast where we just do stupid shit, and that will make us likely go viral. And so yeah, and I don't know if Mr. Beast or this girl Jenny Hoyo are to blame for perpetuating the problem and putting content out there that keeps getting shorter and shorter and just dumber and dumber, or if it's a larger society issue that where they're just profiting from the system that we live in. And then secondly, I don't think we're that different, our podcast, because we've also been trying to join that shorts game where we create these like viral videos, or we try to create these viral videos off of our podcast. And what I've noticed is that the AI, the way it cuts it is by grabbing things that are controversial and out of context and clipping it together so that, for example, like Carlos, he's very likely to go viral because it clips videos of him out of context and he says some outrageous things. And so that's the formula for today's world to go viral and make money. And yeah, I guess I'll turn it over to you guys to comment on what you just saw based on like what makes a video go viral.
In a way, it doesn't surprise me because I think this has been something going on for years already. I've been watching The Simpsons, like from the first episodes to the end, and I actually got my wife into it. And so I've seen how like the big concerns that the 90s had, and a lot of it was television, right? Television. Oh, your brain is rotting with television. And so I think, in The Simpsons, they have a lot of like episodes where they're like zombies because they're always watching television. And so I think like little by little, it's something that just as media has been evolving, little by little, that's where we're kind of getting at. A lot of people compare it to that movie Idiocracy, right? Is that the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they say we're gonna be like that. I hope not. But at the same time, I think what she's doing, I don't think she's a problem. I think her and Mr. Beast are just doing what not what people want, but I think what the audience is. I think a lot of us do critical thinking at work or at somewhere else, and when we get out of that critical thinking bubble, we don't want to do it no more. So
I hadn't thought about that way. So this is like a little break to.
I mean, that's a thought I've had. The other one is, I think it was Richard Feynman who said that if you can't explain it like a fifth grader to a 5-year-old, I think it was Richard Feynman. Anyone of you guys can correct me. If you can't explain it like a 5-year-old, then you don't really know the topic well, right? And so in a way, it's kind of like if you don't know how to explain something to a little child, then do you really know the topic? So if you can create good shorts that explain it like a 5-year-old or a first grader about the same age range, then I think you're not really producing good, informative, content.
Yeah, but these people that are going viral like Mr. Beast, Jenny Hoyo, they're not making like scientific content where they're explaining it at a 5th grade level. They're making dumb content. Like one of her videos was, can she cook a hamburger faster than the drive-through line? And she's like trying to cook a fucking hamburger while she's in her car. It's like stupid shit, right? Not scientific and academic research and critical thinking topics that are just trying to be explained to the masses. Those are not the people that are going viral.
Yeah, with those topics, honestly, I don't know why they're popular. I mean, I know like with a lot of kids, unwrapping toys or seeing other kids play with toys is entertaining, and that just blows my mind. I'm like,
same with video games. Like instead of playing video games, now you watch people play video games.
But I can kind of accept video games a little bit because I think video games have gotten harder. The video game designers have just made it so for a certain niche of people, certain population. And I think like I play one of these new games right now, like Fortnite or something, and I lose. I mean, I've always lost, right? I haven't been good at them, but I lose right away. That's just my point. I don't know. Carlos, what do you think?
I mean, I don't know. I think there's a lot of points that we can address. For starters, these are conversations that we should have when we're not recording, but who is our audience? Who are we pitching this to? Like that's a good question. And then the making money part of getting together and doing this, based on what I understand, Chomsky's theory of the media is, those 5 filters I keep alluding to and mentioning some of them, I somewhat knew that it was going to be really far-fetched, right? Because the success of any type of mass diffused medium is advertisers. right? And advertisers select whether some content, goes viral or not. Ultimately, I might be mistaken in this realm that we're discussing, but I'm pretty sure it still fits the theory. But I want to address a couple points that you made, Hoser, that I found really interesting. When it comes to The Simpsons, like I wanted to know whether, in your opinion, The Simpsons have gotten dumbed down over time. Whether their jokes were a little bit more sophisticated in the older episodes. Like that's a question I have. And then you mentioned Idiocracy, which is a really great movie. I think it was Mike Judge who made that movie. I might just be talking out of my rear end, but was he like UCSD alum or something?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I got that right. You said like, will we ever get to that point? I think like the landscapes are really exaggerated, right? Like the whole landscape is like a dump and there's no vegetation. But in terms of like how people think and like what entertains them and what worries them, in some respects, I think we might be there already.
Yeah.
So some
Just-
of us,
just-
some of the
Just
population.
look at the president of the United States. Like he's kind of like the president in the Idiocracy movie,
Yeah,
like in a way, right?
that's true.
Kind of funny.
I think with that, it's like I thought it was really funny how back in 2001 when we had George Bush, we thought that was the worst we can do.
Right.
I think
Right.
I always think that was crazy how like we thought that was the worst. Like how could we have elected someone like that?
That's another point. And then you also mentioned critical thinking. And I would argue that very few of us do critical thinking. I think the majority of us are like pressing the buttons that run the programs in the way that we need them to run, and we copy and paste over here and there, and it's like critical thinking is like out the window. So I would argue that a bulk of the population doesn't have the pleasure of engaging in that type of pursuit, unfortunately. And yeah, just to summarize,
Hey, can I challenge you on that one?
yeah,
Okay, so at the very, very first pilot episode, we talked about Walter Lippmann and the whole reason why we chose the Bewildered Herd podcast for our name, right? And you had mentioned that his theory was that the masses are too dumb and that they should have an overlord or the oligarchy that's deciding things for them because they're just incapable to make these like decisions for the country, right? But what I've seen is that humans are actually really smart. And it sounds like, from what I've seen, it seems like they go through a lot of effort to dumb it down and to feed us things that are dumb, to try to actively keep us dumb. And so I would argue, like, I'm starting to change my mind now. Remember I told you at some point I kind of agreed, like, yeah, I think it is, if it was a fair democratic system and they truly were doing things in our best interest, then yeah, I think we should give up the power to some elected officials because we're just like too busy. But now, like, the more I think about it, the more that I'm changing my mind and I'm thinking, like, you know what? People are actually really smart, and the system goes through a lot of energy to try to keep us dumb. They put a lot of effort into it, and it kind of reminds me of like 1984, where they have these like surveillance and just like the media that they're putting out there, and it's like a lot of effort to try to keep you dumb. And I see it in this society too. Like, it's not that we're incompetent and can't understand what's going on. It's just that we're too busy, and there's this system designed to keep us busy, to keep us dumb, for
Yeah.
somebody's benefit.
Yeah, I agree with that because that's true. Like it needs to take almost like an evil genius, right? To really produce algorithms to really create something that will keep you entertained or keep you distracted from whatever.
That's a good
Or
word, distracted.
or even controlled, right? Or just distracted from whatever you need to critically think about, right? And you're right. Like these people who are at the head of these areas, like they're constantly doing this thing, right? And they're constantly improving. And to maintain that, yeah, it requires a lot of smart thinking.
yeah, but it's very specialized, right? Like these people who make these algorithms that essentially hijack our emotions and keep us like to our phone, they're very smart in programming and statistics, maybe psychology, human emotion, whatever, to get us addicted to that thing. But then they're so ignorant in so many other things, right? So many basic things that they should be aware of. For example, I don't know if I were to take a guess at who the average, elite level Facebook or Meta programmer is, he probably came from, or she, from privilege. And they don't know where that privilege stems from, being a citizen of the empire, right? So they're woefully ignorant in a lot of things that I think make a complete human being. But in general, I do agree with your point that people are smart. People are really smart, surprisingly smart, in a whole bunch of intricate ways. Like, I'm sure there's some people who know baseball statistics like the back of their hand or something. And to me, I'm like, what a wasteful use of your brain real estate, right? And someone could be like, F you, man, this is worth it. And I studied, and I know, and blah, 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 and, fantasy football. But what other niche little game that people play that takes a lot of insider knowledge and effort and time, like fantasy football? But then to me, these are all distractions. These are just things that are like flying over here that really don't matter in your community life and in your quality of life, and that don't make you integrate into, a tribe, essentially. Keep you separated in your little thing. Or maybe you do integrate it into a tribe, but it's like virtually. Then day you're in your living room doing your thing through your smartphone.
So I want to give you guys an example of my point that I think it is true that these people in power really are actively trying to keep us dumb and distracted and misinformed. A couple of examples. So in July, the House committee rescinded $1.1 billion from public news organizations like PBS, NPR, that are not for profit, unlike Fox, CNN, stuff like that. These are like actual journalists. They've lost 35 to 48% of their budgets, and they're having mass layoffs, especially in like rural counties. And I was listening to this NPR episode where basically they were saying that because of the, Trump cut their budget, they're going to have to fire journalists and at the same time figure out how to make more money. And like we talked about in the beginning of this episode, the way to do that is to create these like viral shorts, because again, people's attention span has just decreased. So they don't have that time and capacity to read a whole story. And then there's also the threat of AI that when you do a Google search, it summarizes like the journalist effort into this like short little paragraph. So you don't even have to click on the article anymore. The AI like sums it up for you, because again, we just don't have the time. We don't have the capacity these days to like read the whole thing. We just are getting little snippets of it. So instead, what they're going to do is hire social media people to try to compete with these like influencers. And so this whole like journalistic integrity is kind of going out the window, if we even ever had some to begin with. The other one is the cancellation of the late night Stephen Colbert. Again, like another guy that like makes you kind of critical thinking, but in a funny way. And so there's real life examples of like things happening before our eyes that show that we are okay with cutting down real investigative journalism that makes us think, keeps us informed, and replacing it with social media little snippets done by influencers, I guess. And that's the economy that we're in. And I was telling you that our podcast is like trying to compete with that and trying to make money, but so is like real journalistic companies like PBS and NPR. And that's kind of sad to me.
I mean, what you're mentioning is called flak. It's one of the 5 pillars of the filters of the mass media. It's when the owners of society get together, organize, and punish you for not falling in line. And this Trump administration has been engaged really, in it, in disciplining the media. And so that's what he did for the Corporation of Public Broadcasting. And then there's some type of merger, I think, with Paramount and someone else happening. Like, I forget who the second
CBS.
Conglomerate is. Who?
CBS.
And Paramount?
Yeah, I think so.
Holy shit. Well, there you go. And so they fall in line by silencing someone who might be critical. And I put it critical in quotes, because I think Colbert used to be more critical when it was like, when he had his own show. like before the late night show. I forget what his previous show was
The
called.
Colbert Report.
Yeah, the Colbert Report.
So
That one
nice.
was him, like a little more, voicing his opinions in a sarcastic way, I think. But yeah, it's flak, man, and it's one of the 5 filters. And it's used. This isn't new. It's been used against investigative journalists before, who are part of established sources like the New York Times. Like, you basically tell them to be quiet. If you're not quiet, you're sidelined. Your career is ruined, and
But at the same time, even though with the adversity, fall in line, there's always, I think there's this spirit of not wanting to die, right? Not wanting to go down. This rebellious spirit, maybe you can call it. And I think that's the beauty a little bit of like the public broadcasting, and I think this is the beauty of why a podcast is really cool. The foundation of a podcast is cool in the sense of, if these guys can get creative, they don't have to change their scheme nor bring in social media people. They can just kind of join the podcast, which they kind of really, in reality, no one really notices this, but NPR really started this podcast trend, right? But if they just kind of continue this in a different platform, they can still do what they're doing in a way more clandestine if they really, kind of want to. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, to compete, they have to dumb it
Yeah, but-
down, shorten it.
Sure, but that's to compete. But if they were always nonprofit, then why would they want to compete, right? If they really stand for journalism and integrity, there we go. That's the word.
Yeah.
They can just make their own, they can go onto YouTube or just other platforms and just bring their fan base there,
Yeah, but their fan base is dwindling. It's getting smaller, and I think it's dangerous if it shrinks to like 0, and then there is no more investigative journalism.
Right. The
Then
other thing,
where are
though,
we gonna get our real
Yeah.
news from? Not like fake news, right?
right. The other thing, though, I think is that, I think like Carl said at the beginning, who's your audience, right?
Mhm.
Your audience really matters. And so for someone like public broadcasting, like I think between the ages of 3 to probably 10, like that's a big demographic of the public broadcasting. Because I know I grew up under public broadcasting, and it breaks my heart, what's going on. But then I think there's also a new demographic between 18 and 25, the college educated audience. And I think from those two are very important, because those are gonna spearhead kind of like the future. And so I think it's just a reshift in your audience. That's what I say.
We were talking about antidotes and heroes in this attention economy, and I like South Park. You guys saw that Trump episode when to rebel against like the canceling of Colbert.
No.
So in an effort to try to tank the Paramount deal, because they're with the same company, they put out an episode criticizing Trump. Man, it's so funny. And yeah, sure enough, it caught the attention of Trump, and even the White House had to put out a statement saying that South Park is woke and like irrelevant now. But I thought that was cool, like trying to like tank their own deal and like meddle in the forces of these like conglomerates. And who knows, like there might be consequences, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's like
and
South Park, Simpson. There's shows still
Yeah.
out there that
but I
mhm.
really think that in the near, I thought it was gonna be in faster, but I guess it's kind of slowed down. I think media is gonna go through a really crazy change. I think the big companies that we see, your CBS's, ABCs, they're gonna end up dying, because this, in the sense of how they were the main ones to provide entertainment, in that sense, not as a corporation. They're gonna figure out how to make money somehow, but in them being the main players of delivering media, I don't think they're gonna be it. I think what Mr. Beast has done is he's shifted a new generation. Like all my nieces and nephews, like they don't watch Saturday
Show.
Night Live like I used to, or shows, or
Mhm.
like The Simpsons or something like that. They watch YouTube clips. That's it. That's all they do, man. Like, and these guys are like 5 to 9 years old. Imagine when 10 years later,
When they grow up.
they're gonna keep that mentality, and that's where you're gonna feel it.
So what you mentioned, Hoser, reminds me of something I've mentioned here before, a book called Surveillance Capitalism. It's by Shoshana Zuboff or something. She's a professor at Harvard Business School. And she basically makes an analogy of what industrial capitalism did to the natural world, which it extracted from it and it deformed it to a point that it's hard to recognize some locations. And she said that the current phase of capitalism that we're in has the potential to do that to human nature. Extract human nature and deform it in such a way that it's not easy to recognize. And so she contends that human nature is itself at stake here with the way that we live our digital lives. And so what you're saying about your nieces and nephews, they're providing data to these big conglomerates that, sift through our lived online experience and are able to easily or more easily, readily, corral them to buy certain things, to be able to predict their next moves, And so what I see here, based on what you mentioned, is really her point being illustrated, is that human nature, whatever it means to be a human, whatever we understand to be a human now, to be able to hold eye contact, to be able to have a conversation, to be able to listen to someone else, to be able to go talk to a stranger, whatever, that's going to be on the line. And from what you're telling me, it seems like it's really imminent. It seems like 10, 15 years from now, I think we're going to be old timers. We're going to say, I remember when humans used to be around and used to be able to say hi to a stranger and used to be able to ask for directions and used to be able to hold a conversation without interrupting it and going on their phone. Nowadays, the kids, I don't even know if they're cyborgs or not,
Yeah, man. I think me and Hoser, we talked about this. Remember when we went to the career fairs?
Yeah.
It blew my mind, dude. Like, I was one of the recruiters trying to talk to the kids, so they would come up to me and ask me a question like, "Oh, why should I be a structural engineer? Why should I work for your company, etc." And then I would like happily start answering that. I was like, "Oh yeah, you should join because of X, Y." Dude, as soon as I start talking, like, they look that way. They look that way. They look at their phone. That's the one that blew my mind the most. Is like, a recruiter's talking to you and they're like swiping on their phone. And these are the smart kids, dude. The ones that are in a UC university college system.
Yeah.
And they were doing that, and I thought, like, am I the problem? Am I like boring? And I thought it was like, okay, maybe it's just one bad apple. But then another one came the same, dude. I would say like 90% of it was like that. There was a few. Like, I remember one girl that kept eye contact, and she seemed normal to me. Like she's still young, but I thought she was like at our age level in terms of like holding conversation and whatnot. And yeah, so I already see it, and it kind of made me rush my point because I thought that like I was being boring, and it kind of goes back to like what we said in this podcast. Like, shit,
you were doing a short.
Yeah, dude, I literally, like, by the 10th person, I had to do a short, like a little viral short to sell it to this guy in a way that he can understand, which is like, fuck, I got like 30 seconds to explain why he should join my company to keep this guy entertained, because otherwise he's going to fucking start looking at his phone, start looking somewhere else. And I was like, oh man, this is. So I don't know if I'm an old timer and I need to shift my ways because this is just the new future, or are they the problem? I don't know.
No, I think it's just it's a lot of little things, but I've experienced the same thing, and it's a little bit it's weird, it's weird, and so I learned to just throw them off. If they're like, oh yeah, so what do you guys do? And then they go off, and I'm like, so what do you want to do? And then they freak out. Like when I turn it around to them, they start, and then you should see it like when they come to the workplace, and then like you're telling them what to do. Like, all right, you got to do step A, step B, because of this is this, and they're just kind of like looking around, and then and not writing notes. And that throws me off. But I just had this thought. I know, Carlos, you've thought of how we need overall population to kind of overthrow the system. Eventually, if we continue doing this, like if we continue if this trend keeps going, do you think that maybe there'll be like the population will be so inadequate to work that eventually these corporations won't be able to profit, and it's like, oh no, we went too
AI.
far, we were too Icarus, we were like Icarus, we got too close to the sun or something, and we got burned. Do you
Yeah,
think something like that could happen?
I mean, I don't know. I wish I had a crystal ball, but some people I read who are supposedly really influential, they predict that about 80% of jobs right now might vanish in about 10 years, more or less, because of the rise of AI. And so, as we mentioned before here, technology is just technology. It can be used for good or bad, right? You can take a hammer, hit a nail, you take a hammer, hit it in someone's head. And so I don't know. I don't know what's going to become of us, right? Like what
Yeah.
I think it depends on, sadly, the owners of society and what they want. Like
Yeah.
how confident are they that we will not want to have them for lunch and
Yeah.
take their possessions, or they have us sufficiently distracted and entertained and with just enough so that we just, do as we've continued to do as a society, which is keep our head down, try to put a roof over our heads, feed our children, and try to go about our life having certain pleasures for ourselves.
But I think that those methods are getting a little bit antiquated, I think. Like, I think maybe they're like, it's always worked, it's going to continue working. And I'm like, is it? Like, or like, do they need something different now? And I don't know. I mean, like you said.
So I want to talk about the instruments of these oligarchs and masters of society, which again are like the shows that we watch, the clips that we watch. So like Mr. Beast, this girl Jenny Hoyos are kind of more on like the harmless side. I still think that the content they put out is not good for our growth and critical thinking and whatnot. But at least it's not causing harm, and they're not doing it for nefarious reasons. There's other people out there that have taken that same formula of attention grabbing headlines and whatnot, and trying to like grab people's attention that way. And I'll mention some like Alex Jones, Infowars, Tucker Carlson, where they knowingly and nefariously say lies to grab people's attention and make money that way. So for example, when Alex Jones was saying that the Sandy Hook was a conspiracy theory, the families actually experienced real pain. People were like really attacking them after they had gone through this like tragic event. And that guy didn't give a shit. He was making money off of it, right? And
Can you
so
provide context for what Sandy Hook was?
it was a school mass shooting of children.
How old were they?
They were in elementary school, so like I don't know.
When they kindergarten?
Yeah, it was like
wasn't it something
really
ridiculous?
Yeah, something like either first grade, second, something like that. First grade, second grade.
Elementary school shooting.
Yeah.
26 people, 6 and 7 years old.
Yeah, 6 and 7. So pretty much like my kid right now. And so yeah, I mean that those guys are like straight out evil, profiting off of like just straight up saying lies, because we know that they don't really believe this. They're just saying this to make money, because there's text messages that they've discovered of, both of them saying pretty much being critical of Donald Trump. Like behind closed doors are like, yeah, Donald Trump is like a dumbass and this is what I got to say to make money. So we know that behind closed doors, they are actually like educated and pretty smart. They know that what they're saying to their audience is complete BS, but they're doing it to get a buck. But however, what they're saying actually is causing harm. And so I think going back to my point about journalistic integrity, Hoser, you mentioned that some of these like companies are going to die. I don't think so. I think the ones that have integrity are the ones that are going to die, like PBS, NPR. There's not going to be any more journalistic integrity. These like InfoWar type of media on the right side, and then on the left side we have like Jon Stewart and like the funny ones like John Oliver. Those are like that's where we're going to get our news from, like kind of comedic value on the left side. And I thought that the best way to do this so that the public gets its trust back on news agencies was to have like a license to practice journalism. And it kind of blows my mind that we don't have something like that, because for myself, I'm a professional engineer. I have to take a professional engineering license to practice like building this house, for example, so that when you go into the house or the building, you know that it's safe, that it's been done by years of standards that we have created, and I have to pass this test to be able to design this. And on top of that, there's an ethics portion too, where I would not cross my engineering ethics to try to make a buck. They do that for medical too. They do it for accounting. You got to get your CPA. You got to get your MD for doctors. For lawyers, you got to pass the bar. So there's like standards for certain careers, but for some reason for journalism, there isn't one. And I always thought that that would be the solution to getting the public trust back, because if I see that, like, okay, this guy, you know, took the, let's say, like, journalist license, then he must have ethics and he's doing like to a standard, versus something like Fox News is, I can say that it's more entertainment rather than like real news. And that way, as a viewer, you're kind of more like informed on what you're watching. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I don't think it'll matter. I think that the 5 filters of the mass media are so entrenched and they're so necessary to maintain an illusion of a running democracy that nothing we could do to the profession will change it substantially. And I think that the damage has been done. And it's evidenced by the fact that more people get, I don't know if they're news, but more people tune in to Joe Rogan and his podcast than they do to 60 Minutes, than they do to Fox News, than they do to, what's this guy's name? Anderson Cooper, to Jake Tapper. Take all those people's viewers, add them up, Joe Rogan has more. So that's kind of an indication of where we are here in the United States as a society with regards to where we get our information from, right? Joe Rogan, the dude is on the record saying he's a fool, right? He calls himself an idiot, you know, like whatever. He's probably smart, charismatic, you know, he's very funny. But he's just an average guy, you know, charismatic dude, like man's man, like narrating UFC, did Fear Factor, was a stand-up comedian. And now he's a fucking source of information for a big chunk of the population. Dude was like a fucking COVID denier, peddled some pharmaceutical fucking things that weren't the vaccine during the height of the pandemic, has climate deniers on his podcast. I don't know if then he has the opposite, like climate scientists on his podcast.
Yeah.
But there it is. Like, I just think that the media is so pervasive. It's everywhere that we don't even know it's there. It's our magazines. It's your degree. It's the movies you watch. It's where you get your information from. That's all part of the media ecosystem. It's the textbooks we consumed. And these are all made by these huge corporations that essentially own society. And the fact that the world's most richest man was interested in buying Twitter back then should allude to us the power that mass media have over society.
Yeah, I agree with you, Carlos. But what I'm trying to get to the preventative side, like, so that the truth doesn't die. Because I think the further we go with this, the way we're going, people are just not going to be able to distinguish what is truth from fake news, right? So I wish that there was a way that, like, in these like platforms, let's say like TikTok or whatever, that it has like a little asterisk that says, like, you know, this is true, this is not true, this was done. And the only way I can think of it is like if it's reported by someone that doesn't have an interest. You said Joe Rogan took over, and like Anderson Cooper, Fox News, but even those are like still for-profit media organizations. So I don't have a problem with that, because they each have like the interest of making money. The only one that I think that you could actually get the truth from is someone that's impartial, that doesn't have an incentive to make money. And those would be like those NPR, PBS. And so that's why I'm saying that I wish there was a way that, like, there was a license for someone that's reporting the news that says, I'm impartial, I'm actually trying to tell you the truth. And that way the reader could be like, okay, you know, this I can trust. I know that is the truth. Otherwise, everybody's just lost, man.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know what the hell's real anymore. Especially with AI making like deep fakes. Like, fuck, man, it's gonna be so hard to tell the truth.
And actually, like, thinking about it, I think that would be a really good idea. But then again, we've never had this problem, right? This has been like a 50-year, the way it's growing with media and how much disinformation there is. I mean, in the 60s, 50s, people really trusted their media sources. Now we don't trust anything, right? I think like a license, like you would say, that would be really cool. But to But to control that, to regulate that, I think that's going to be super hard.
Why? We do it for medical. We do it for
Well, because
engineers.
then there you're saying like, oh, you can't say this, you can't say that.
No, you can say whatever you want, but I'm just saying that like you just have to do your research and your best effort to tell the truth. And you, like Fox News, they know that they're spilling lies.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan, he knows that the shit he's saying is bullshit.
The other thing though, and with Joe Rogan, which I think this would be one of my solutions, and I think this is what makes this podcast kind of good. The thing about Joe Rogan is that in reality, how he became the main source of information is what Jenny Hoyo said. Maybe they talk in the first grade level, right? So Joe Rogan talked in the first grade level. Clip that. No, I'm just kidding. But where I'm getting at is that I think it's going to be seeing people have real conversations, right? When he has a person come in to his show, they have a 2-3 hour conversation about a lot of things. And it ranges from like science, politics, personal things, you name it, stupid, funny things, And I think that it's only in sincere conversations like that you'll get truth, right? And I think this is what we're seeing in podcasts. Like, for example, like I don't agree with a lot of things Carlos said, nor does he agree with a lot of things that I say. So some of the viewers may listen to that and say, "No, hoser, you're weird, dude. You're wrong. I like what Carlos says." You know what I mean? This is where truth is actually going to like come out. In other words, I think in personal conversations, that's kind of where your actual news is gonna.
Yeah, and I think that's that's the role of the journalist is you have to get both sides of the story, and that is what makes the truth, right? You get the two sides. Like for example, when we fuck up in our company, they're gonna publish the news, right? Like, oh, the city did blah blah blah, but they always reach out to the city and get our comment as like, okay, we want to get your side of the story too. We're gonna allow you an opportunity to say that, and I think that's what makes it impartial is that like they're actually trying to say the two sides. And so that the viewer can decide for themselves what is the truth versus these other guys are just saying like from one point of view. So yeah, I agree with you. It's like if they could have experts from the two sides and then just let the viewer kind of decide like what is the truth.
And this is the beauty of these podcasts, that you get to see these sides, right? And you get to learn something new like that you never even heard of.
I just wanted to say that the truth is really difficult to define.
That was another thing. Yeah, that's true.
Like, what is truth? Like, it's really difficult, man. Like, if you do a laboratory experiment in a physics class to try to measure little g, good luck. Little g being the acceleration that a body faces towards the center of the earth or is exerted to. You're not going to get 9.81 meters per second squared. You need to propagate uncertainty, right? And so we know that the acceleration of gravity varies depending on where you are on the earth. Your altitude, the local density there where you are. There's a lot of things that go into it. And so even in a hard physical science, like physics, truth is sometimes really difficult to define. Now, put that in the context of human affairs, of, he said, she said, of like, he struck first, then they struck, of like, they're the terrorists and we're the freedom fighters. What's the truth? Depending on your lens from which you tune into things, you decide the truth up here. From there on in the world, good luck finding truth. Like, I don't think you're gonna get at it.
That's why like the permit or like the license that Edgar was saying, it's kind of like if you say, oh, do your best effort, well, someone can spill a lie and say like, well, that's my best effort.
It wouldn't work out because like who's gonna grant those licenses? It's gonna be groups of people. And those groups of people are probably going to be well positioned financially, economically connected to the powers that be, so that the system fundamentally doesn't change. It's like I don't remember. It's been a long time since I did engineering, but I think I recall there's certain types of designs that are permitted that wouldn't be the best type of that wouldn't produce the best type of failure. Like the best type of failure would be something to be like relatively elastic and flexible and give you time to exit the building.
Yeah.
Like a strong rubber band, right? Like you want something to fail like that. But there's certain designs that the building code permits so that you use more steel and more concrete even if those designs fail like chalk.
Wow, really?
Yeah, like a type of failure you don't want, but it's allowed in the code. Why? Because it benefits the concrete and the steel industry. Because you use those materials.
No, they're out of it now. So
Okay.
the code is for the public benefit. This is where I do think like there is some good in the society, right? Because every time there's an earthquake and there's catastrophic failure, like you said, where it collapses or something, like where people die, the code changes and it gets updated because the code for engineers is there to protect the public. It's the same with doctors, right? Whenever there's like a medical malpractice and somebody dies, like they update the standards and codes. So it's continuously evolving to make it safer and better for occupants. And maybe you're right. Maybe there is some influence from like the materials industry, from contractors and stuff. But I think for the most part, I would say that the code is there to protect us, and it's in the public's benefit. And you were saying like, oh, how are we going to do that for journalism? And I think there is a way. I mean, like you could get people that are experts in the field that make these like ethics and standards, and it could be regulated. But I think we're just so far down the rabbit hole of going the other way that I don't think that's going to happen.
But going back to the pilot episode, like one of the things I said that Chomsky clearly says is that propaganda is to a democracy what a club is to a totalitarian state.
Mm-hmm.
And so propaganda is a necessary ingredient in keeping us in line, in shaping our opinions, our perceptions, our desires for what we want in the world.
So
Because
then there you go. That's why it will never be regulated, because if it was regulated, then we would have to critique our masters and overlords, right?
No, I mean, I'm arguing that if it were regulated, it'd be regulated in such a way that it doesn't change, that it doesn't threaten the powers that be, that it still regiments us with the necessary values to integrate us to work for the owners of society.
Yeah, you're right. Because
that makes
even
sense.
CPAs, like accounting, there's always like these scandals and like people are always doing shady shit anyways, right? Yeah, you're right.
So no matter what, like to have journalism integrity now, you're just gonna have to want to be poor, and just as long as you say unbiased facts, right?
So that brings me to the last and final point. Jose, you're saying that these like heroes in this attention economy are either resistant or standing up, or I don't know what we're supposed to do, but I think we're trying to be the antidote to the problem of dumbing it down, right? So this I think that's what the podcast is a bunch of friends like talking about ideas, doing some critical thinking, discussion, debate in a respectful way, not like spewing lies. We do our research, we actually like are trying to
Yeah.
tell the truth. But at the same time, we've changed a couple of things. We went to the hook faster because we're learning that that's just the way it is. We're using AI to create these viral shorts that are purposely saying controversial shit by taking things out of context in order to make a buck. So who are we? Are we just trying to fit into the mold? Are we the antidote? Are we like Mr. Beast? I don't think we're like Tucker Carlson in that realm, like trying to purposely spill lies. And I don't think we're like Mr. Beast either. So we're like somewhere in between.
I think we are a little nugget lost in this, a little gold nugget lost in the river. I think that what we have is a nice conversation. Conversations that I think have encouraged us and motivated us to be a little bit more critical and get out of our routine. But at the same time, the audience, I think they can kind of get thinking about what we're talking about and agree or disagree, and take a side or really go against what we're saying, which in a way it's kind of like what we're doing to each other, we're doing it to the audience. So I don't know where that lies in the spectrum between Mr. Beast and someone who's very, very educated, but I think that lies somewhere there. I think those who watch us, they'll either love us or hate us. That's how it is, man. I think I don't know if that makes sense, and I don't know if you guys agree.
I mean, I don't know. I would like to think that we're the counter school of all the sea of feces floating around there in this ecosystem. But I'm approaching this as a way to have a more consistent relationship with you guys. You know, this has benefits for me practically, right? Like I see you guys are my friends. We spend a lot of time together in a very formative period of our lives. And so that's what I think this is about for me. I don't think when I put serious thought into it that we were going to make money off of it based on who we are. I don't know. I think that some of the things we talk about, like trying to, provide valuable insight and conversations, I think that's for us. I think ideally, like for what we do here, my goal is to make you guys a little bit uncomfortable, to challenge what you thought you knew about a topic or the world or whatever, and take you a little bit beyond that comfort zone and get you to question what you think is okay or not. And I would hope to do the same with the audience. And what I'm doing now is it's based on something that I've heard George Carlin say of how he approaches comedy. He approaches comedy in such a way as to try to make his audience uncomfortable, but to lead them somewhere, to move them from where they originally came from. And so I think that would be my goal with this.
See, Carlos is being like the leaders of media. He's trying to lead you somewhere. He also has an agenda.
But hopefully to like greener grass.
No, just to make people uncomfortable. Like I like being uncomfortable by ideas that you guys present to me. Like I like being challenged on my perceived assumptions on how the world is and works or should be.
Yeah, I don't. I like comfort.
I think that's
And
why
I
we
like-
always gang up and pick on Hoser.
Oh man. But I think some of the shorts that we can produce and that we've produced, I think it's kind of like they give a statement, like, and it makes people say yes or no. It makes people give an
Okay.
opinion. And I mean, a lot of people want to give opinions these days, but I think the questions we pose are a little bit deep in thought.
Well said, sir.
Well, this was a good conversation, guys. Thanks for everyone watching, and stay tuned for our shorts. Yeah, in this episode, that doesn't mean that we're not gonna do no more shorts. I think we're gonna continue them, and we hope we can produce more critical thinking shorts.
And
Well,
don't forget to like and subscribe.
there you go. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. All right, that would be it for today. We'll see you guys later. Till the next episode. All right, see you guys later. Peace. Actually, before we leave, let's try to make like a 5-second clickbait. So I'm thinking, all right. So I would say like, hey, if you don't have a belief in a God, then you are going straight to hell. And that's a fact. There you go. That's gonna get views. Let's see how many views we can get with that one.
That would be for the next religion episode.
No, man, just put it out. Let's see how many views it gets. Like, what would you
like
say? Carlos?
an experiment?
Yeah,
Just say outrageous shit and see.
And see how many views we get.
Yeah.
And let's see if the AI picks it up as something.
So here's
I
my
guess-
clip.
Oh, go.
The way I see it, the game's over. They won. So we need to start planning for a world in which we don't have electricity, running water, and things we buy. And we need to start reintegrating back into nature to learn basic survival skills. Navigation, where to find water, how to find edible plants, how to set up basic shelters, hunting and trapping.
That's the plot of Leave the World Behind. I recommend you guys watch that movie. It's really good.
Yeah, you need to say some outrageous shit too, man.
Yeah, man. What's your outrageous comment?
My outrageous comment? I think the world is going to end in our lifetime. By end, I mean there'll be mass casualty where a lot of people are going to become extinct.
Nuclear war or what?
We don't know, but all of the above. AI, nuclear war, climate change, starvation, mass migration.
I mean, I agree with that. That's why I'm saying, like, we should learn to...
So that wasn't outrageous? That was like just fact.